What's going on, and welcome to Joe's Geek Show, the video series where we talk comics. And just recently, my family and I got back from a trip to Tokyo, i.e. going to Disney Sea. And whenever I go to Tokyo and we have a little bit of free time, I like to try to stop by the comic book stores, since Tokyo seems to house the only comic book stores in the entire country. And whereas last year I went to Blister Comics, this year I decided to check out First Comics, which was actually a nice little shop, to be honest. I mean, it's one of those shops that's sort of just tucked in a back alley and you have to go up this little spiral staircase, and even though it's not like the most spacious comic book store, they definitely have a lot of interesting selections. And thus, I walked in with a set amount of money and walked out with some books. These are those books. And the first one I'm going to show you is the reason why I wanted specifically to go into the comic book store in the first place. And that was to pick up Scott Snyder's Night of the Ghoul. And upon its release, this was one of those books that came across my League of Comic Geeks page. And I just read the premise of it and thought, that sounds interesting. Because it's effectively about a guy who works in the film industry, particularly restoring old films, and he comes across this old reel of a horror movie that never got released, but was said to be one of the greatest horror movies of its time. And so he manages to track down and talk to the director of that movie. And as the guy quickly finds out, the movie isn't exactly made up. And this is one of those books that just continuously reminds me, Scott Snyder is very good at horror books. Next up is the original Crisis on Infinite Earths. And this is one of those books that I've been trying to get the singles for a long time, particularly when I was more into singles. And the only time I've ever really been able to come across them are at comic conventions, where the comic prices just kind of skyrocket. People wrap them up and it's like, okay, all 12 issues, $250. But now that I'm mainly out of the floppy game, with some exceptions here and there, I decided, you know what, this was a good time to buy this, because I've only ever read it in bits and pieces, so it'll be interesting to actually read the whole thing from start to finish. And though not the end of this video, the last thing I picked up at First Comics was SpiderMan by Todd McFarlane, because I'm one of those kids that grew up in the 90s.
Grab a copy of this month's SpiderMan. Marvel Comics, it's mayhem for your mind.
So 90s comics were my comics, but here in my grown adult life, I don't own all of the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man books, and here's the trade. That works for me. And my last two books came from in-stock trades, courtesy of my buddy Trevor Fernandez-Lenkovich, who was paying me for my logo that I did for one of the stories for his upcoming anthology comic, Minutes to Midnight, because I'm one of those graphic designers that doesn't always necessarily work for cash. Most of the time, I just work for comics, because that's what I'm gonna buy anyway. And sometimes I ask him for specific comics, while other times I ask him to surprise me, because I trust his opinion on comics. And so the one that I did ask for was the Go-Go Power Rangers Volume 1 Omnibus, because even though I've got every single issue of Go-Go Power Rangers in the floppies, I've been going back and deciding, you know what, I also want the Power Rangers comics in trades. And while I've collected all of Mighty Morphin in trades, I still needed to get Go-Go Power Rangers done as well. And since, well, the book 1 and book 2 Omnis are out, well, let's just say I had to go that direction. And the one he added as the surprise comic is the All Against All trade paperback, which this one I thought was kind of interesting, because All Against All was a story that I was looking at getting anyway, because this book is about an alien race that goes from world to world, looking at the different species that inhabit those planets and effectively harvesting them for their best traits. And it's then that these alien conquerors discover just how dangerous humans can be. Well, those are my most recent collections, but what do you think about my picks? Have you read any of them? Do you have any book recommendations to me in, say, the horror or indie department? Please leave your comments in the comment section below.
And if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with some friends, subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and ring that notification bell for more comic book content. And if you're wondering what to watch next, consider one of these 2 videos. Alright, take care, have a great day, and as always, stay geeky.